What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? I worked for a major hotel chain in housekeeping for over 10 years. The number of suicides and people who die naturally in their rooms is a lot higher than you'd think. I worked at a huge convention hotel with over 1,000 rooms and it happened quite often. Unless it was a pretty gnarly mess, it would just get cleaned like normal and the next guest had no idea. At one of the hotels I worked at, a woman killed herself by drinking antifreeze. Her body was blue, blood, vomit, and damp, poop everywhere. My friend who was maintenance saw it and damp, couldn't sleep that night. Working at hotels will change you. I used to work as a receptionist at an upscale salon. While I was there, the salon introduced a new line of products marketed towards men. Up until that point most of our products were marketed towards women. But the execs saw that we were getting more male customers. Every item in the men's product line was about half the cost of our other products. The men's shampoo was the exact same shampoo the salon had been selling for years, but because they put it in black packaging with the word man on it, it was half the price. The owner's explanation was, well, men don't want to pay that much for hair products. For the rest of the time I worked there, every time a woman came up to buy that shampoo I'd tell her that the men's shampoo was the exact same product for half the price. Which the exec was happy about, because he saw good sales for the male shampoo he introduced. I worked for a restoration company. One time an elderly woman called them to clean her house. She was a hoarder or there had been a fire. I can't remember. Anyway, the company charged $57,000 for the work to be done, but in actuality they couldn't even get the charges to add up to $20,000. She couldn't file this on her insurance. There are other examples of gross overcharging, but this is the worst I know of that wasn't on the large loss side. The lesson here, if you have water, fire, mold, or hoarder damage and call in a company to clean it up, go through every line item on the invoice. Every single one. I had a mold remediation and I did go through every line item and made them explain to me the reasoning of their charges. It ended up knocking off around $3,000. Olive Garden breadsticks are just France brand breadsticks, garlic salt, and butter. Eater, it's margarine, not butter. I forgot there is a difference, p. Yeah, but I'm not buying France sticks when Olive Garden will give me an unlimited amount that are already prepared. If you pick up a wall phone at Home Depot and push 7 it activates the store-wide intercom. This works in every store in my province of fake. Pound symbol then 35 at Lowe's. I used to work surveillance at a casino. From something like 3 stories high ceiling, we could zoom in on money on the table games and read the serial numbers of the bills. We could see the pips on the dice. Policy was to not look down blouses. This is true and also very annoying because I work on the floor and the guys in surveillance can't be bothered to do their job and give us a lot of HRM can't really see anything when we call them. Worked at Best Buy 20 years ago. Employee discount was 5% over cost and I needed a new printer. Decided to splurge on the gold-plated USB printer cable that we sold for $40. Rang up $1.78. I worked there in high school early college during break a bit. Definitely took advantage of accessory pricing. Other thing that was nice was the Intel and AMD employee offers where you get bus and motherboards for probably 50% off or better. There was a similar program for some car audio stuff too, probably close to 75% off head units, subwoofers, amplifiers, etc. I bought probably $2,000 worth for like $500 and sold it for $1,000. Maple sap can be trucked in from other states and where it's turned from sap to syrup decides on the state it comes from, not the location of the trees. You need a maple syrup cartel, like in Quebec. Used to work at a graphic design firm. All our Adobe software was pirated. From what I've heard about Adobe, if I was in that game I'd be pirating too. Home Depot. Most security cameras are fake. Easy to steal and amp. Most stores have no security loss prevention. Buy the clearance items that end in $3. After that, the next step of the markdown process is the dumpster. Dial 676 on any desk phone to live page on the overhead speakers. Fun to mess with that. Buy the products in front. It's newer. The old product gets pushed behind continuously. If you see a reduced tag item, usually larger items, appliances, vanities, etc. slight damage, ask someone to scan for the price. Most times they are not updated and will be cheaper than the tag says. Free bottles of water for customers behind the customer service desk. Hotels do not typically have security, maintenance or housekeeping on staff 24/7. Once housekeeping finishes cleaning all the rooms, the entire staff leaves except for one front desk employee. Yeah, the amount of times I, at the time a 19-year-old kid, was left completely alone at a mid-size and largely recognizable hotel brand was honestly kinda wild. I had essentially no clue what I was doing. People would call that something in their room was broken and literally the best I could do was go up and just kinda troubleshoot random shit. And then during that time the front desk was completely unattended. This was at like 9 PM to not 3 AM. We sometimes made up letters to the editor. What? How are there not enough opinionated retirees in your area? I still work here, but everyone please get a copy of your medical records from every place you've been to.
But it's like a pipe dream.
Keep the hard copy in your home.
You said it.
Because I have horror stories from working in medical records since 2007.
And I can go back to school.
When one of my doctors retired, I requested my records so I could take them to my new provider.
And it's been 6 years.
According to said records, I've had a child, breast biopsy, tonsillectomy, thyroidectomy, and I'm 390 years old. I have had exactly none of these things. In the United States, one company's bread and butter was simply reboxing and relabeling computer monitors from China to make it seem like they were from the company and made assembled in some way by them. I work for a wholesaler. You would be surprised how many companies simply source merchandise and sell it without ever touching it. We ship it direct to their customers for them, just swap the return address for theirs. Inbound call center. We are currently experiencing an unusually high call volume. Messages permanent. They just didn't staff adequately. Also, I suspect the menu options have not recently changed.
Because maybe I'm not good enough.
1. Ford parts from Mexico are way more reliable than Ford parts from Detroit, or at least they were before 2020. I worked in Detroit and we had some customers who were fussy about us always doing repairs with Michigan parts, but when we had a problem that wouldn't stay fixed we would always secretly switch to the Mexican parts, which did solve things. 2. I was a prison guard a decade ago and we installed some facial tracking software in the surveillance cameras. One of the inmates panicked while cleaning the unused solitary confinement cells, which is usually a desirable job. It's easy as fuck and nobody pays attention to you, and he insisted that he be moved out of that job because there was a ghost. The ranking officers decided to check the new cameras, and the security software claimed it saw a face behind the inmate at the same time as he was visibly startled in the camera footage. We're all aware there are mundane reasons why a new facial recognition system would think it saw a ghost, but since the inmate and the security software both thought there was a ghost, it was decided that the inmate should be immediately transferred at no penalty. I'm 90% sure a company I work for was importing product from China, repacking it and selling it as made in USA, i.e. blending it with the product we did make in the US. Assembled in USA is code for this, where all they do is put the made in China into a plastic bag. Your luggage at an airport isn't really handled with care. I worked baggage at an airport. Nothing is handled with care. If it's marked fragile, Your only hope is nice baggage handlers. You should avoid packing breakable things at all costs. Edit. Not totally true. I never had one, but we were trained on how to properly handle a casket. The training was be very careful, don't drop it, and for the love of God, don't sit on it like it's a horse. Truth story. That's what our boss said. In a broadband company I worked for, I was tasked with editing thousands of complaints to avoid huge Ofcom fines. I worked for a large construction company and the sales guys would intentionally omit items from contracts because they received incentives for what would then become a change order. Me, you forgot to include any framing in this contract. Sales weasel, oh, I guess it's a change order then. Customer cries. We had a sales lady for a home we bought who actually said to us, hang on, you're changing this and this and that? I'm not submitting it yet because if we do it 3 times you're charged 3 times. So I'm gonna wait for the couple days you tell me you need to finalize your ideas. Same person when we went to final sign the initial paperwork pointing out the lot size is a lot larger than marked on plan. Bad math, said you're right. You're getting a good deal. Sign right here please. We'd given a deposit and when we saw the error, needed to point it out for our own consciences. She honored the original deal. Got about 1/3 of the lot free. Some people are good. I worked at a candy bagging warehouse like the crappy .99 gas station candy where we would even make trail mix by hand. Tons of sweat would drip into the mix because we would be in a 100F+ room with little ventilation. Also my boss was a hunter, so a quarter of the warehouse was dedicated to his taxidermy treasure room. Fucking smelt like shit in the summer, but he was so proud of himself. Edit. Also should add that if the expiration dates were bad we would use nail polish remover to take the date off. That sounds like a horror movie to me, lol. I was the one who did an undercover news stories about scamps pet stores and their affiliation with puppy mills. Please don't buy from pet stores folks. I worked at L'Oreal. The cosmetics from L'Oreal and Lancome are practically the same. But Lancome costs like $20 more. I worked for PayPal. Man, we can see a lot of info. Any card or bank on file, all its information. IP info, machine info, the devices you logged in and all its information including serial number of the device. We can see any account that might be linked to your account, if it's linked by last name, IP, address, financial info, device ID. For us accounts, we can see your SSN, and with that plus your DOB we can log into a secondary company that PayPal pays for and see all your information with regards to house and rent leases, cars bought, all family members living or connected to the SSN, crimes committed, any outstanding debts and so on. Plus lots more I can't think of at the minute. I'll say it. A place similar in name to past Face Urgent Care, at least in the region I worked at, banned their front desk from informing customers that they have a credit balance to use toward their services and still required us to charge customers the full price on top of what we already owed them. Some accounts had like $500 of copay that should have been refunded but weren't. I was actually reprimanded for applying the credit balance, because despite finance agreeing my method was correct, the regional manager said it was not a good look for the company and hindered her profits. The difference between the high quality deli meat sold at M&S and the regular deli meat sold in other grocery stores is that we changed the label. We would literally stop the production line, wait for the guy who ran the label machine to swap them out and then start it back up again. I used to work for an online craft type store, and one of the things they sold was premium craft sand. It was literally sand from the hardware store. They'd buy 50-pound bags from Home Depot for $8, separate it into 1-pound bags, and sell those for $4 each. Everyone's favorite sauce that people wanted the recipe for was mostly mayonnaise. Sure, it was called creamy pineapple sauce, but it's just pineapple salsa and mayonnaise. Pretty much every restaurant's special sauce is mostly mayonnaise. Ice machines are disgusting inside, full of slime. Worked in insurance. Hundreds of people have access to your SSN with no security clearance or background check. The same is true of every HR office in existence. Right around the same time, a major retailer had its largest warehouse burned down.